welcome to the our meeting of the advisory board for tonight. This meeting is being recorded. If we could all stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, again, let's go around the room, public meeting. I'd just like to, for the advisory board members, to announce who they are.
Ed Du Bois, advisory board.
John McAleer, advisory board.
Vin Falacara. I'm Chris Rowland.
Peter Simonelli, Scott Swain.
All right, and we have quorum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's a quorum. All right, so Patrick, if you go to your keyboard and hit the X key on the speakers, that should do it.
I did that.
What about?
Here's a text. I didn't say John.
The speaker's off, it's still playing out of his seat.
Look. Todd. We think it's Dr. Sullivan we're working on. We'll figure it out. We might just turn his computer on and use Tom's computer. That's right. I can do it from, and then I'll do that. Yeah. Thanks, Todd.
Test.
All right. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, so we welcome tonight Dr. Patrick Sullivan and Tom Miller, representing the school department. We're anxious to hear your presentation on the budget. Come on in, Jan. Happy to have you. Don't turn on a computer.
Thank you for having us. Hopefully we'll move on from those little technical gaps.
All right, so everyone should be seeing the superintendent is sharing his presentation on the screen here and should be on your device as well, so the public can see it and we can see it. And I'll give you the floor. And how do you want to do it, Pat? Do you want to take questions slide by slide, or do you want people to just interrupt you if they have a question? It's a lot of slides.
Yeah, I think I can go pretty rapidly through the slides to give you an idea, and then we can take questions. But if there's a burning question,
Okay, so you'd like us to kind of hold on to it?
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna, well, thank you all for having us. I'm here with Assistant Superintendent Miller, Finance and Operations. Thank you for all the work you do and for listening to us during this difficult budget time as we try to sort through all of this. When Mr. Falacara asked us to present to advisory, he asked that we present what the implications would be for the three budgets that are on the town floor. So we'll get to that. I just wanted to start with just a couple of notes about our budget, just as sort of a reminder that the school committee voted per town charter in January a level service budget of $63,597,203. This included some projected negotiating responsibilities on the part of the schools. We have negotiating going on with 3 of our units, our teachers nurse unit, our assistant principal unit, and our tutors unit currently. The interim town administrator at that time placed an education budget of $62,359,239 as the education request budget in the warrant. this warrant amount reflected the school committee approved level service budget, less projected negotiating responsibilities.
That was all that was withdrawn, was the negotiating piece.
Yes, but one thing to make really clear to anybody watching in the advisory is that we present a level service budget, so we didn't ask for anything which we typically have in a financial plan, which might be based on data and other factors, additions that we might want programmatically or positionally. We just presented our level service budget because we knew there were some tougher times. And, obviously, we respect that the town didn't include the negotiating responsibilities. But in everything we're presenting, and we still owe those, we're still not through the negotiating with any of those groups. Hopefully getting close, but not through. Just a couple of things, just to make sure everyone is, again, aware that over the last 2 years, we have cut 20 FTEs, about $1.6 million in budgets, and we've tried to do this strategically through attrition, so that we've taken town employment, but it has impacted us at all levels. It's impacted special education, intervention services, impacted world language, arts, math, science, nursing, library, media, and behavioral supports. And just by way of everyone who's watching, just to understand that we do our best to create and we do create a very high-performing school system. We are still relatively low within the ranks of comparable Massachusetts districts in per pupil spending. We're actually lower than 70% of comparable districts in our per pupil spending.
Patrick, what's that number now?
Our number of spending?
The per pupil.
It's what, 23?
20, no, it's just over 20,000.
Over 20,000. I think the state average is 23,000.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. Our core values, and what's important, just to give a little bit of flavor here, is why Marshfield Public Schools are so special. And as we look at cuts that impact this, it's just important for the advisory to understand what makes Marshfield schools tick in a way that really brings people to the town, that increases our real estate, helps keep our real estate value increasing throughout the town, and so many people return to Marshfield to work. Even in our schools, we have over 130 former Marshfield High School graduates working in Marshfield Public Schools, which I think is pretty unique. It just shows you that they want to come back and give to the community that they gave to them. We encourage our kids to respect themselves and others, to nurture positive relationships, embrace diversity, pursue excellence, foster collaboration, inspire innovation and creativity, promote responsibility, provide an equitable, supportive environment, cultivate social emotional awareness, and the one I really want you to focus on is teaching the whole child. A couple of hallmarks of Marshfield Public Schools, and I should say I'm a product of Marshfield Public Schools, grew up my whole life here. I taught now. I went over to a neighboring district for about 7 years, but I've taught here for about 23 years, 30 years total. I've been in education, 23 of them in Marshfield. I have 4 children in the school district. So this town means a lot to me. And the hallmarks of Marshfield that they preceded my being a student here are a few things. We teach the whole child, meaning we're really interested in cultivating their strengths, helping students figure out where they may go and move in the future. We are big on our music, our arts. We have neighborhood elementary schools, which is unique and really an element of pride in our community. We have a middle school that is a true middle school. It has a cluster model, a team model, which helps kids in that. I was a middle school principal for years there. It helps kids in their development, socially and academically. And then our high school is a comprehensive high school, which gives students the opportunity to expand their knowledge in areas that other schools just don't have. We have marine fabrication, we have a high-end decor program, we have a high-end culinary program. Our arts program there and the facilities that help foster that are unique and something that the town really prided themselves in when they built that high school. So we absolutely want to keep those moving in the right direction, and the cuts that I'm about to outline deeply impact that. So I just wanted people to know that. what I'm going to go through pretty rapidly, but again, I will stop and I will have questions at the end. I should mention that I did share with Mr. Fellick our frequently asked question document, which anyone watching can find on our website. I also share it in my newsletter every week that has many of the questions you might ask answered in depth. But we're going to be looking at and showing you a three-tiered approach for the cuts we need to make. What we really have for our responsibilities is we're looking at a $7 million town deficit. And budget A, from the schools portion, which we've been told is 67% of that number, is going to be $4.524 million plus our negotiation operations. So that's a very, very deep cut in Marshfield Public Schools. Budget B, which is the $4 million override, is going to cost the schools $1.783 million in addition to our negotiated obligations. And Budget C, which I believe is a $7 million override, although I have heard a number different recently of 5.6, and we're seeking some clarity on that and what that actually means for us. All of this is based on that $7 million override, which would be, in my estimation, the number we're dealing with on the floor of town meeting on the 15th.
So,
for Budget C.
just a point of clarity, we talked to interim town administrator Warren yesterday, and he said the $7 million override of 5.6 does not include, like you're indicating, does not include any contract negotiations for any of the Marshfield bargaining units.
Yes, we're aware of that. What we're trying to see clarity on is where the 5.6 came from and how the town reduced their budget to get to that point and how that impacts the schools and why we weren't just all working off a $5.6 million deficit if that was the deficit to begin with. And then the schools would take their chunk from that. We're trying to come to some clarity on that because I think that's a big difference, 5.6 and 7.
So not to belabor it, but where is there something planned where you're going to be meeting with the town administrator? Or?
Yeah, I mean, formally, the first time that I actually heard that it was 5.6 was in the select board meeting a few weeks ago, and we've been inquiring about what it means. So just a recent, we're getting some color on what that town pre-cut is or what that is, and how that impacted, how that comes from what the town, other departments had put in for their original requests. As I said, from the school's point of view, we put in a level service budget, plus we wanted some negotiating flexibility, which of course was taken away, and I understand that. But I don't know the other town departments and what they put in and how that $5.6 million number may have evolved from a reduction of wants as opposed to reduction of needs in terms of level service budget.
He shared some of us. I think it's probably best for
Yeah.
him to communicate directly with them.
Yes, and the reason I bring it up is because you had asked me to prepare a budget C on 5.6, and I'm not really able to do that. We're really talking about 7 million, because that's the number we've been given. The first set of cuts that we'll outline here, and I should mention that these were created collaboratively, very painstakingly with our leadership team. We worked with our school committee and budget subcommittees, brought it to our school committee. We brought a very similar presentation to our school committee that they looked at and have approved, and I've worked with it, and I've issued pink slips in relation to this, about 110 of them.
So far?
Yes, and yes.
And the thing is that this is also allowing, we're every day something new might pop up and we're trying to adapt to that. So this has changed slightly since the previous presentation.
Not radically, but it's changed
Yeah.
slightly, and it is, we do have wage obligations and contractual obligations to meet in terms of informing people, and that timeline is narrowing.
Yes. Just a clarifying question, sometimes I get a little lost in the sauce with the override numbers.
Yeah.
I'm sure we
I
all
get it,
do.
yeah.
When you're saying, I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, when you're saying that you're operating off the $7 million
Deficit.
deficit or override, depending on which way you're looking at it, what effectively you're saying is you're assuming this is what's going to happen if schools are fully funded.
Correct. We
Per
were
your request.
Well, we were asked by, at the time, both interim town
Administrator.
Yeah, Administrator Moran and
Charlie
Sumner.
Sumner.
Yeah, to take of the $7 million deficit, to take 67% of that, which was based on a rough amount of what the school's amount of the town budget can be. Over last year, we had about 50% of the budget. But that's the amount that we were told to work with. So, and then we were told that the $4 million budget, because there were two budgets at the time. There was the A budget, which was no override at all. And then there was a budget for a $4 million override. And from that, we were told to take 1.8 million, correct?
Just under 1 million.
Just under 1.8 million. And then both of those numbers, so the first one was, what was it, 4.6?
You have 4.5.
4.524.
That budget, 4.524, yeah, thank you. Plus negotiated responsibilities. For budget A, for budget B, it was 1.783 million plus negotiated responsibilities. And then at the time, the budget C was kind of created on, as you all know, and we were expecting that to be a full $7 million override. So if that answers your question, we went forward making cuts based on those scenarios.
Yeah, I want to let you finish your presentation. I apologize. I got some more clarifying questions.
Okay.
But they may be answered in this presentation. But
Yeah, I can totally understand
I
it.
appreciate that.
There's a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
So we outlined what would be our first cuts that would go. This would be essentially bringing us to about the budget B number. Yeah. The second, we have to account for negotiating responsibilities within these two, remember. The second set of cuts, and then a third set of cuts. So I'll dive into it. Our tier 1 cuts, these would be the cuts that would be going, certainly if we have anything, a $4 million override or no override.
So just one more time, if we go back on screen, if the town refused an override, for whatever reason, whoever votes turns down any override at all, all three of them go.
Pretty much. We have one note about one of them in there, but other than that, all of them will go.
Yeah, I think that's important for
Yep.
everyone to.
That's a good point. So no override, all three tiers, a budget B, which is a $4 million override, would be tier 1.
Plus tier 2.
Not probably tier 2, probably be just tier 1.
Okay, all right.
Again, we have 3 contracts that we have to.
Understand.
Budget, say that again. Budget B would.
Budget B is the $4 million override.
Correct.
And what that would mean is the first set of cuts you're going to see tier 1 would be the cuts that we'll make.
So if it was budget A, what would be an offer?
All three.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. So the tier 1 cuts, and I'll go rapidly, but you can see the impact on the side that we created collaboratively with our leadership team and school committee, but a health teacher at the elementary level. I should mention that the reason that one of the reasons that our pink slips are so high, that number is so high, is that in Marshfield we have bumping, which means that someone who has a certification or has seniority can bump someone in
Lower.
that's a lower seniority or is in a different certification of lower seniority if they have that certification. So it becomes a real sort of puzzle of bumping and moving people. So I should mention that because even if someone doesn't lose their job, they could be put in a brand new situation. We could have an elementary a high school math teacher teaching middle school math or teaching elementary because of certification. It doesn't necessarily set us up in a good place from a continuity and curriculum knowledge perspective.
And I assume you asked the bargaining unit leadership for their help in that pumping system?
Yeah, we have a seniority list,
Yeah.
and we share that with our associations, and we make sure that it's appropriate, and then we've painstakingly gone through the process of ensuring that we're giving people the proper information in terms of non-renewals or in terms of reduction of force notices. So This health teacher it is significant because it does impact the services that we provide our students in terms of health education. We'll be reducing our health staff significantly at the elementary level. We have
How many years have we been teaching, and I don't mean to come at you from this, but health at the elementary level was not always a
No.
Marshfield.
No, that actually came in,
It left the district, I started in 2007, it had just left prior to my arrival. It was eliminated, it came back probably 5 or 6 years ago.
it came in when I was.
It's not a state mandated curriculum part.
There are state mandated parts to the amount of health we have to provide, not necessarily at the elementary level.
Elementary,
Right, PE we have to give.
Sure.
But this was really desired because of data sources such as our youth risk behavior survey, which showed that our students needed support in health. So the administration at the time really fought for these positions, and we'd be, I'll come back to that, we'd be losing that
and
position.
that's one teacher that visits all 5 schools, like roughly once a week.
Yeah, so we won't have that.
Is there just the one?
There's the one health teacher at the elementary, so we would use that. That's actually correct. Yeah. We were able to add 2 digital learning specialists, which help with our Massachusetts frameworks in digital learning. They support our students in their digital learning needs. With that, this has been added in recent years.
We've had this
Added for what?
the whole time I've been here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, we did. Yeah. So these 2 would be leaving. They also rotate throughout elementary.
And it's similar to, so just to clarify, so it's similar to back when we were in school, art, PE, music. There's those specialists, there's also specialists for elementary health and digital learning as well. So it's another class that the students take place.
Our math coach, we put in a coaching model in math with our new curricula and the needs to support our teachers and students within the elementary math world. We added a math coach. We actually had 2 math coaches over the last several years, and we added 2 literacy coaches. Our math coaches, in this model, at Tier 1, we'd be losing a math coach and 1 literacy coach. In Tier 2, we'll be losing the other math coach and the other literacy coach. And you can see the impact here. It decreases in supporting best practices for teaching mathematics, reduced capacity to help teachers, risk of increased variability across schools and how math is taught. We have 5 elementaries to try to keep consistency across them. And there's some fidelity in curriculum that we'd be concerned with. And there's your literacy coach, same thing.
How many math coaches in?
2 math coaches right now.
Okay.
We have 2 math coaches for elementary and 2 literacy coaches.
I noticed the budget was 200,000 for the math coaches and 200 for the literacy.
Yeah.
So it's reduced by half.
Well, in tier 1, we reduce it to 1 and 1. 1 math, 1.
Yes, Tier 1 is 1, and then Tier 2 is the second.
And then tier 2, if we go
I'll
deeper.
skip myself down.
It's good, no, it's fine, these are good questions, because we're going to get into it. But tier 2, we'd have, this is an administrative assistant position. Our elementaries, all of our schools are very busy places. This would be reducing it. This one? Oh, the .8 library ESPs. We had reduced our librarians at the elementary level to be ESPs some time ago, and this is reducing it even further. So these are, library is
It's another
class that kids go to learn research, to learn how to function in the library. And,
ESP is education support.
Sport professionals.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're reducing that. You can see it constrains the flexibility for building schedules, because we do need places to put kids when teachers have their preps and off periods and the schedule cycles, and then it reduces time for book circulation and so forth. This is the administrative assistant, as I mentioned. This is instructional technology and computer science teacher at Furnace Brook.
That was the
That was the
elementary.
elementary. So now we're on tier one at the middle school. And this is an instructional technology, one position, there's two parts. Instructional technology and computer science teacher. This teacher currently supports staff in one role and students in another. So it's a dual hit, but they also help with our campus learning management system, and that would cut back on that. We have to find different ways to train them, less support for MCAS, and then of course our computer science classes will increase because we're cutting that going forward in computer science. Health educator at the middle school as well, and just simply want to increase our class sizes. And less individualized social emotional support in health classes. At the middle school, there's as much academic growth in the middle school ages as I should say social growth, because there was academic growth, there's even more in those ages, so this is a tough one. The assistant principal, while I was away, I should say, another assistant principal was added to provide grade level assigned administrative model. This would be a kind of the first level layer. It does impact our ability to continue to improve that middle school, which is something that we're really focused on doing. Have a great principal who's working hard to do that with the team. Music teacher, I mean, music is very special in Marshfield. Anybody that has recently gone to the pops or any of our performances, it's at an extremely high level, and it has a great deal to do with our friends of music and the town bills, but also our instructors. This would be a music teacher at Furnace Brook. And the impact would be that the opportunities would be reduced. And there'd be an impact in student engagement and future participation in music. So we're concerned about this, but this is where we felt we had to make the cut. This is one of our tutors. It's a tutor that's called an MCAS tutor, but they do more than that. They help tough students who struggle with areas that are impacted and shown in class.
So those 16 hours, they'd just be gone.
Can I ask one question about music real quick? So you cut one teacher, what does that leave the department? One?
If we cut, in which area?
Music.
In the middle school.
So you say
So
cut
it's-
one, I don't know how that impacts this whole department, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'd still have,
And you're gonna see music on the other tiers as well.
what we do is we have a teacher who teaches at the middle school for strings. She cycles to the middle and the high school anyway.
Got it.
We'd be cycling the chorus teacher, part middle, part high school, as opposed to having a dedicated one at the high school and dedicated one at the middle school. We'd be sharing. And,
Has that been a common practice? You said you have one anyway, so is that common practice lately? I don't recall that.
we did it in the past.
Yeah, in tight times, or just because either you couldn't fill it or you needed to be tight, or?
It was back when I was the principal, that's when we did it. It was tight times, we were
Yeah.
down on a position, and what it did is it created a gap, and some kids had to take a course called music appreciation, and opposite it was a study. And we're trying to eliminate studies, we're trying to keep kids, once in a while, those things can help, and what I need, a block or some kind of block that helps kids where they get support, but we just don't want to fill a study, so, unfortunately, cutting that within the schedule does create that. It also creates less fidelity in terms of having one dedicated teacher in the subject per bill. We're basically sharing it on high school. There can be some good things from that, because you're looping it, but I'm really stretching when I say good things from that, because it's not ideal.
Yeah.
And
We
you
have a
see,
total of 8.8 FTE for music across the whole district. And you see that, so in tier one, it's 1 FTE, and then in tier two,
2.2.
2.2 FTE.
2.2, so the FTE at the middle school is in tier one. At the elementary, it's in tier two. And then we're at the high school now, so this is a reduction of 4 English teachers at the high school. It's an elimination of our writing lab, which has been around since when I started as an English teacher at Marshfield High School in the 90s. And it supports a lot of kids in their essay writing in every single subject. So we would be removing that, and that causes some bumps, causes some of these English teachers to bump down to the middle school, and middle school teachers to do good jobs.
So, I want to compliment the presentation. I love the fact that it lays out both, I don't want to say pro and con, but it has a rationale and an impact in it. When it says that the writing lab is underutilized, is this really that much of a loss?
Well, and this comes from these teachers. This is a loss because our teachers are amazing and they help kids. And our students build relationships with those teachers and go and get support from them in helping them with all their subjects in terms of writing. The reason it's underutilized now is because we've added some other things in here. We have a Marshfield after-school tutorial program. We have what's called a flex block now at the high school, where students at the beginning, in a period, they can go get help with the teachers. So this is a cut that it doesn't, given this circumstance, this is a sensible cut. And I say that with a heavy heart because the teachers that we're losing here are fantastic. So that itself is bad. But in terms of the numbers, you can see the rationale here.
Appreciate the candor. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not easy to say. They're amazing educators. This is 3 special education teachers. Special education, of course, is the amount of staffing. You know, we can talk later about questions about our enrollment and our staffing. But one fact is that although our students have decreased in the district, our special education needs have increased over the years. So cutting special education teachers has a lot to do with the individual education programs that we have to legally meet. But we are able to cut 3 special education teachers at the high school, and you can see the impact of that. And then this is simply a class size issue. We're cutting 8 teachers, each in one of the following areas: math, social studies, another English teacher, business, tech ed, art, world language, and science, 2 from science. Okay, so that what it does is it increases our numbers in our classes. That's really what it is, and then we increase the number of students assigned to study hall. And this bumps teachers all over the place. So there are teachers moving down, teachers moving over. This is a
Give us a
tough thing.
feel for where the class size ends up based on this.
So class sizes at the high school are tough because of the way the schedule works. But this moves it up, you know, in the high 20s. I'm giving you an average.
Yeah, that's fine.
Superintendent, can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
On all these teachers, do they have a full slate schedule, or is it,
They
they
do.
have more on Monday than Tuesday, Thursday, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I think they have a full schedule. I think some of their classes are smaller and some of their classes are larger. I know that for a fact, depending on the way the schedule sort of falls. And there's some, it's impossible to get, you strive as a schedule to get as uniform as possible. But they will have days when some of their classes are larger, some of them are smaller. Again, these changes, they're devastating for a bunch of reasons. The class sizes get higher, they're not through the roof yet, but it's still not a good situation. And these teachers are incredible. You know, they're a lot of them are people we've hired recently are very high on and really helping kids.
And when Pat mentioned earlier that we reduced 20 positions over the last 2 years, about below 1.6 million. And it was mentioned that it was being done strategically when we had a vacancy. If someone retired or someone left the district, we would choose not to replace that and work with small increasing class sizes, particularly at the high school. And it's a little less relevant at the middle school because of the model, the cluster model. And then at the elementary, we've already reduced 20 plus classrooms over the last 10 to 15 years. So as our enrollment has gone down, which everybody can see the numbers has gone down, we have adjusted accordingly to that. We just try to do it without putting people on the street, losing their jobs, and having town have to pay unemployment. But you know what this is these 18. This is a people.
Yeah, and eventually you can't do that anymore, because you have to, you gotta think beyond the culture and really think stuff and think strategically in terms of what you're offering academically, and programs you're offering, and then the class sizes you have. So we're hitting that tipping point.
Is there, let me just follow up on what was just said. So there has been and is continuing to be kind of a long-term look at balancing out what seems to be a trend in declining enrollment relative to cost savings by attrition, natural attrition.
Right.
Yes. Okay. And that's continuing on, you've looked.
We're gonna be we pretty much stabilized now at the elementary level.
Okay.
We're in that 260 to 270 range. It looks like our kindergartners are actually might
Yeah.
uptake this year,
Okay.
which is not a good thing.
No.
It's
It's a good thing for
Yeah.
us. We love the kindergarten.
it's a horrible year to have
Sure.
more kindergartners coming in because we have to adjust accordingly. We
gotta hire
we
staff.
might have to have 3 additional kindergarten classrooms next year. Just because of numbers. And that goes against when we're already, you'll get to the elementary teacher slide momentarily, where we're pushing elementary class size up to 28 and reducing another 6 teachers. But now we have, on the opposite end of that, we might have to go to the route of bringing more teachers on to teach kindergarten.
Which it keeps us.
And it's a tough scenario. And we try to get people, it's May 28th, but over the summer, we tend to get kindergarten registration, so you have to play that.
We're at a high spot right now for the kindergarten.
Do you think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we started all-day kindergarten not that long ago, right? Like,
Yeah, so it was actually 2000
21?
I'm trying to think back to 2012. 2012.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh,
And it was a phase-in. It was.
yeah.
It was phased in where everybody didn't get it, and they had to pay for it. Then we moved on to anybody could have it, and they had to pay for it. Then we made the switch where we just didn't have half day anymore.
Right.
We made it full day kindergarten, and when we did that, we took away the fee.
And there are only a few districts now in the area that don't have that.
Right, but I mean, I think Marshfield is ahead of the game ahead of that. I'm just wondering if that's maybe why there's been such an uptick in kindergarten, because like young families have moved to Marshfield because of it.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean,
The quality and the fact that,
We also had an ESP in every classroom earlier than most times did as well, and that was helpful, and you're gonna see that cut coming
yeah,
up.
all right.
So, just to put a finer point on it, so you feel that relative to enrollment, you're kind of at that point where.
Yeah,
I don't think it's, maybe a little bit plus on the kindergarten, we certainly don't think we're going,
No, that's.
we're declining enrollment to the rate that we're not gonna backfill future positions.
Yeah, so right now at the elementary level, K through 5, we're 267, 266, 266, 274, 267, 258. So we pretty much stagnated in that 260 to 270 range. Whereas if you go up to the high school, we've kind of moved out our large class sizes. The senior class last year that was the last class of over 300. The difference is, students do, we have the VOTEC that they attend, some go private. So generally, we do lose some students over from elementary, moving on to the middle school to the high school. So our class sizes at the middle school right now are 277, 234 in grade 7, and you're going to hear about that momentarily. 263 in grade 8, and then 272, 242, 258, 279. So across the board, across all 13 grades, we're pretty close. There's one class that's lower than the others, but we're pretty much in that range now. So we moved out all the grades that were over 300 plus.
So we have 1.5 physical education teachers is another cut. That actually impacts the high school 2 individuals.
What does it mean graduation? I'll go back to that. Graduation requirements may need to be updated. Do we have that choice? I thought that was a state mandate.
Yeah, it is. And at the time, and I probably should have changed that note, because we were looking at the possibility of allowing students to to do sports instead of their PE.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah, there are some districts that if you participate in
Yeah.
2 or 3 sports, over a season, you can exempt out of PE.
But lifelong, it's not the same. Obviously, playing a sport and lifelong wellness, health, and fitness isn't the same exact thing. So, you know, we're looking at that, if we have to do that, that's why that is there. I don't anticipate that happening. Special education tutor, which is, we can restructure that. .4 math tutor, these are just, you know, some of the services we provide that we're just gonna have to do without. An administrative assistant at the high school too, which is their retirement, and there's nothing.
So it's not a pig slip, it's a retirement.
Same thing with the administrative assistant at the elementary. This is a director of online and professional learning position. This is a system-wide central office position, which provides us a lot of flexibility in helping with our systems management. Our professional development is really high-end. I'm pretty against any professional development. All you have to do is look at our stuff that we have on our website on professional development. And this person provided a strong amount of support for staff and families. This is someone who has moved on and just not filling the position. But the need is there. This is a .5 PK outreach coordinator. It's half grant funded, and we feel like we can keep it at that .5 point, which is why it's only .5 cut. So in other words, it's a reduction in this person's job.
Retaining that person or any person that loses that many hours, how likely is that?
It depends
Yeah,
on the
I-
person. I mean,
I-
it's really hard because sometimes they're flexible with it and can do it, and sometimes they just can't. So we do run the risk.
We're working with with our early childhood director in restructuring the grant so that it would be able to, it would be a reduction of hours, but hopefully all those hours would be picked up by the grant. And that .5 of the coordinator that's currently in our operating budget would be removed.
This next one is coordinated digital learning, which we're just not filling. That person had left the year. And this is it provides a lot of supports for our staff. It's a non-student facing position, and obviously we have to prioritize those student facing positions in these times. An assistant facilities manager, this person was extremely, this is a retirement, not filling. This person was extremely valuable during the snowmageddons we had over the last winter to help work, to coordinate those efforts. We're not filling that. We have great custodians, so we'll make do, but that person was
Would
really
this-
valuable.
Did this person coordinate with Fred Russell, or were they?
Sure. Yeah, they were very.
Yeah, this position went in probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years
We had
ago.
a lot of new.
And what we had at Martinson, the middle school and the high school, we had 3 relatively new custodians, brand new custodians at the middle school and the high school. And the person that was in this position had worked at the high school, had been the senior custodian at the middle school, had the knowledge, and we kind of brought everybody up. So it definitely served its purpose well. It's a great position to have because he does help assist with Fred as a go-between all our senior custodians as well. It's a loss.
This is a health aide that works with our nurses, and we just would help and have that person there. The nurses and our certified nurse assistants would have to pick up some of the slack for that. Permanent substitutes. We looked at the value of this, and if it was more cost efficient to keep them or to drop them. These are people that we have on staff that are substitutes, so they take over for any position that might be open during the day. But we looked at the value on it in terms of dollars, and it was actually more cost efficient to limit the
I mean,
position.
they make slightly more than a regular daily sub because they're there every day, and we depend on them.
Are they
So
engaged?
it's a cost saving $28,000 for 12, so. it's not-
Sorry, I interrupted. Are they engaged every day, 12? Is there that much?
Yeah, Oh, yeah, because they're throughout the district.
Yeah, every school, there's,
Oh, I get it.
there's one at each elementary school, there's two at the middle school and three at the high
I
school.
see.
So, I mean,
I was thinking, I was
It's
thinking.
two at
Or maybe they would, someone isn't missing, but they provide extra support, so they're
That's
never not
interesting.
engaged. But they're typically enrolled.
But they're
Yeah,
coming
we've
down.
actually, when I first started here, we only had permanent subs at the high school. We had two at the high school and one at the middle school. That was it. We only had three. But over time, it made sense because those individuals become part of the school. And we've increased it slowly over time. You know, we went up to three at the high school because there's absences every day. I mean, you have 700 employees, 400 teachers.
Is your pool of substitutes rich enough to handle it?
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, we can handle it, but it's not ideal. It is nice to have someone who knows the culture well. We looked at that, we really looked at it for a long time to determine which was more cost efficient, but we determined because of the money.
So the 12 came to, what did you say, $28,000?
Yeah, and that's the differential between, our daily sub rate's I want to say 150? 150, yeah. 150, they're paid like 170 something, like, so it's just a small daily rate difference.
So Alexa, this is some of our curriculum that we have to be careful with curriculum because you don't want to cut so much off a curriculum that you're making, you're fleecing it to the point where it's not helping kids. We do need curriculum, we do need to be able to do it appropriately, but we've probably been trim a little bit from our Alexia iReady package, and you can see the impact isn't really, trimming this leaves the diagnostics in place in terms of diagnosing students who may be having issues at the elementary through grade 8 level, but it takes away the instruction support, technology, and math.
So this is a computerized system to assess students and see where they're having
And
issues?
it provides them with practice exercises that they can do in school and at home, and it's statistically very helpful, but we felt that we could fill this in other ways, and leaving the diagnostic piece in place, because it's important to me to identify students who are having struggles.
How much does that save?
16.
That's equal to 60,000 share. So there you go. So there are the totals on our sheet of loan cuts, and you can see we figured that that could get us through, if there was a $4 million override with that includes our potential negotiating responsibilities as far as we know. That would be the cuts that we have determined we would make.
So, and I don't want to get into a food fight over it, I'm just remembering back to 1991. One of the things that the schools put in place, and I don't know if it would be an option these days, but, and I forget how much it saved, but it was quite a bit, was the split elementary transportation schedule, so you didn't have to have as many buses going all the time. I don't know if you remember that, I know it was not a popular.
Yeah, it was right before I started.
Yeah, but it was a savings.
Yeah, we just had a major transportation change, probably one of the biggest changes since that time. I think that was done in 2005, 2006.
That it was limited, that it was.
Yeah,
brought to
the
scale.
elementary was split. We just, 2 years ago, this is our third year,
What was that second?
second year.
Believe me, I know
Yeah.
that full well. Good hand to that one.
It's the third year we've had bus registration. This is the second year we combine all the elementaries back into one
And
starting.
we combined that.
But we were able to do it, so, huge project. We were able to combine them, but not add any additional buses. And that was part of the transportation registration and the transportation fees as well. Because for a time period, we had bus routes where we had to account for if everybody was gonna ride the bus. So that's why the elementaries were split. So we had 20, going off the top of my head, approximately 28 bus routes. And it was split, maybe 13 and 15. The three smaller schools were one tier, the two larger schools were the other tier. And we were able to combine them and with those buses, the most buses we have on the road is when the middle school is running, the 18 buses. So we were able to combine all the elementaries to 18 routes across the board. So like Danny Webster went from 3 buses to 2 buses. Marmson went from 6 or 7 buses to 4 buses. Like we were able to do that because we took away those people that were definitely not riding the bus if they didn't register. So our bus ridership numbers on a daily basis were, you look at a bus that go by and there'd be, kids single to the seat, especially at the high school level. But at the elementary, we were able to all do that, and it didn't cost us any money.
All right, so what you're saying, I guess, to summarize is.
Yeah, long story short is we were able to, what they did in 2006, by breaking them apart and saving money, we worked off the same contract, bringing them together.
There's no money to be saved in trying to.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll go really rapidly through these, so you can see them.
We're not hoping to do that, but that's.
That's okay, no, I.
So much for waiting to the end of the presentation.
That's okay, no.
We're all asking you questions,
We're-
but I think it's a good flow, I think,
This
as
is-
long as you're flowing.
This is hugely important, so we'll stay
Yeah.
answer anything.
Cool.
14 kindergarten ESPs, remember I said, I think, Mr. Ron, you mentioned that we were one, maybe it was somebody mentioned that we were one of the first places around to do full day kindergarten. I think that's accurate, but we certainly had kindergarten ESPs, so we had often two certified teachers in the same room with our kindergarten students, which was really helpful, but always two individuals. Now, individuals do come in and out of elementary kindergarten classrooms because of special education needs and other things. So they won't be without another person necessarily, but they will be guaranteed another individual in their classroom to assist.
So the acronym at the end of the rationale, supplemental education support professionals or special education?
Special education support professionals.
Professionals, okay.
So SESPs, we have a distinction between our ESPs and our SESPs. ESPs can be used with a little bit more flexibility, and SESPs are for more students who maybe have a more profound need or a more pronounced special education service need. So we would be a little bit, would be very strategic in where we would place our supports based on the needs of our students. But at the end of the day, we're kind of 14 of them. This is the other math coach, Mr. Dubois, and the other literacy coach. 2.2 music teachers now. These are elementary teachers. This would change some of a lot of the fabric of our music program because we are able to now, through 2 individuals, teach instrumentals. So we have one individual teaches band and the other teaches the strings, and they would be mixing in and teaching chorus, and we would be cutting 2.2 teachers, so it breaks a lot of the continuity and richness of our music department for sure. We make it work, but it's not a pretty sight for music. Social worker, adjustment counselor, again, this is a devastating loss because we need them. One of the reasons our staffing has maintained over the years in numbers is our need for social supports, both through education plans and from just the perspective of students needing more support socially and emotionally. And these professionals are invaluable to what we do. This is a tech education teacher. This would, at the high school, this would eliminate the 4th year of the program for students. So some of the problems that we start to see when we get into the tier 2 and tier 3 of the high school, remember I said one of the special things about Marshfield is our comprehensive high school. And if you look at just to give you like our curriculum, and you look, our courses, our program studies, and you look at the courses that our students can take going through art now, I put it up against any private school. And if you start cutting those programs, you're going to get programs like general art, painting, and you're not going to have landscape painting, you're not going to have photography, you're not going to have sculpture, you're going to have generalized art, and that takes away what's special about Marshfield, is that we are able to attend to those the needs of our students who need the supports and the needs of our students who need, everybody needs both, right? But who are ready to find their place and thrive, and often it's the same kid. Kid who doesn't find academic success in other areas finds it through construction and being able to go out and work in the field, and that becomes their career. We offer that in a special way in Marshfield, to put it up against any place else. And these cuts start to eat into that.
So how does the South Shore VOTEC work in conjunction with
Yeah,
this?
so Social VOTEC offers some programs that we don't offer, such as cosmetology, correct? And
HVAC.
yeah, HVAC. And I think the town, a few years back, made a commitment to allow our students to have even more opportunity in the trades. But I also want to bring us back to the fact that we were constructed as a comprehensive high school. There are only a few high schools that are built like Marshfield High School in the whole state. I mean, if you walk through, it would actually be a great exercise to have you walk through our high school to see the programs that we offer our students. MCTV, full television studio in there. Very high-end culinary, marine fabrication. Tomorrow's our boat launch. Anybody has a chance to go in the community wants to go see.
I've been to that, it's excellent.
It's
really
unbelievable.
cool,
Our
man. They built
students-
that from nothing, it's
Right at Edgehill Marina, they're gonna launch right
That's
in during the morning hours. Go and watch, it's incredible. They, from scratch, build these boats and sail them in the waters. These cuts are running against that. This is a tech education teacher and we do some programming. Our athletics is another thing that's very special in Marshfield. And there, we have to talk this through with our athletic subcommittee, but there's a potential in dropping our sub-varsity freshman teams, because that would be a reduction in coaches, and that would mean either a fee-based program for them, or, we don't have them, and then kids get cut. And I mean, you think of the development that our students have physically, and some students who are playing a sport freshman year, they're not very good, and by the time they're seniors, they're actually getting college scholarships. So, I mean, this cuts off some of that pipeline and opportunity for late buses. This isn't a huge money, not a lot of kids access the late buses, so this is a cut that makes sense from that perspective. But the problem is, it's access. The kids that need the late buses are the kids that won't be able to stay after school unless they have a late bus. So that strikes at, you look and you say, how many kids ride the late bus? Not a lot, I'll tell you right now. But the ones who do, they're not staying after if they don't have a late bus, or they're walking all over Grand Rock. So that's a problem. Okay, so,
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
What about the vans? Don't we have vans that we can possibly utilize that instead of?
vans instead of the late buses. Is that possible?
It's a good question. So I did send you guys we have special education vans. We have 11 of them, and they're primarily for special education transportation. So at the time of, it's a possibility. We'd have to look at what so our elementary schools end at 3:30, and those vans are making runs from 3:30 to 4-ish. That's a good point, that potentially they could swing back, and, I mean,
It's a cut, so
It's-
we're gonna have to think of something.
yeah, I mean,
That's a
it would mean just extending the day of some of our own van drivers to do that. It'd be interesting to see, I'll do a cost analysis on that and trade it off here.
It's a great point. That's the type of thing that we need to do.
Right now, we just have 2 late buses that, one goes north, one goes south. And they do a big looping run where students don't necessarily get dropped off right at their house. Or there's a little bit of walking, obviously. But, I'm gonna look into that. That's good. We also have a 14-passenger van that services for clubs and activities and athletics. So that would be a little more difficult because that's on the road, majority of the days.
So that's the summary of our tier 2 cuts. 1 million. Tier 3 cuts, this is a reduction in and this again was prioritized by our leadership team and worked through our school committee. but these are, and remember, I just want to keep in mind that with no override, with the exception of one that I'll talk about in a minute, we're looking at all of these cuts happening. We pink slipped to afford ourselves the flexibility to do this, okay, and it's been really devastating as a district. The 5.0 assistant principals were added some years ago because of the rising level of need and evaluation, because of the behavioral needs of our students, because of the curriculum needs, the special education coordination needs, and we would be reducing them to potentially not have any of them, which would put significant pressure on our principals. And actually, in many cases, when you have investigations, and you know that anybody that is involved in our business knows that you want a separate investigator from decider. So everything shifts around. Our central office team would need to be making a lot more decisions and having the principal do the investigation because you want to avoid biases. So I'm nervous with some of these principals leaving, if this happens, that we're going to run ourselves into some legal problems just because of the volume of issues that we have to deal with and the fact that you're supposed to separate that. That's just one thought, but you can also look at everything else they provide. I'm very concerned of burning out our principals. 6 classroom teachers would be reduced, and this would run our numbers up in some places to 28, and certainly will be a reduction in individual attention, small group instruction, and it would limit our ability to tailor our instruction to individual student needs. And it creates a reduction in that sense of belonging in the classroom. You know, the larger the classes are, the more someone can slip through the cracks, and we just don't want that to happen in any way. 2.2 teen chairs, this again is a very important legal construct. That's why we kept this down to tier 3. But this is, they do more than just run teen meetings. They make sure that from a legal perspective.
This is special education.
Special education, sorry. From a legal perspective, everything gets done properly. And we will be reducing to 1.0 teen chair by cutting 2.2. You couldn't, it's not really a scenario. There may be, but not practical level. We have no teen chairs. And it's going to be very difficult to consider a scenario when we have 2.2 teen chairs and no assistant principals. Because the assistant principals will be the ones taking up the teen chair responsibilities. There are ways we can do it, but it's not good. This is not happening right now. But I want to put it on here because it is something we looked at, a school closing, and we tried to estimate what that could be. I only kept it on here because if depending on where we are next year, this could be what we do. We didn't have enough notice to create this.
It's a big project.
This big project, the savings are, there's a lot of savings, but we'd have to redistrict most of the community. And again, I said, the community really prides itself on those neighborhood elementary schools. Moving away from that is changing the fabric of where we are in Marshfield right now. We may have to do this. It's just, we were not prepared to do it at this point. And there was some overlap in what we're proposing to cut and what we will be cutting within the closing of the school. And you also got to think about what you're doing with the school too. You're going to close it, you're going to sell it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you some pointed questions. If we got to that level, have you been around in your illustrious career that you've been doing this a while? So I have to. Have you been around where a school has closed in a similar scenario
Yes.
or redistricting? What happens to that building?
I'll tell you what happened to Ames Way. Ames Way closed in the early 90s.
Open it again.
Opened it up 3 years later. Okay, so I have not, because I've spent my whole career in Marshfield and then a little bit in Cohasset, I have not in a scenario where I've had to go through the closing of schools.
So what happened was that once you close it, it becomes, as far as whatever body accredits schools, you have to raise it up to the level of the new accreditation model, whatever that is. We had to do some things in Amesway.
You remember that, you must have.
I painted several of the classrooms. But it had, bringing it back was very difficult. It took the community.
Yeah, I mean,
We may have to do this,
We may.
you know, I mean, let's be realistic. It's hard to come back from it. If we do, it
there is a cost associated with keeping the school, like, you just, to not letting fall into disrepair. It sounded like a little bit over those 3 years it fell into disrepair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, it has to. I mean, it's, no one's in there, no one's taking care of it because you don't want to.
For various reasons, we weren't prepared to do this.
I think this is
We
wise
will
to
be if
hold
we need
off
to
if we
next
can.
year. We will be prepared to do it, and we'll give folks notice about it. I hope we don't have to,
Right.
and the school committee obviously has a huge.
Well, it reminds me a lot of like a sudden death. Remember the old sudden death thing in college? And we can talk about what it did to, I mean, this has nothing to do with high school, but, or schools at all, but except for college when the SMU football got sudden death and they never, I mean, just now recovering from it.
Oh, yeah.
Like 40 years later.
But this is not something.
You know, and I'm not even sure they recovered. So, and they realized that was like harsh, and you really should, this should be like the last result.
It
And
is.
that's why.
And it's not even
Like
included.
break the glass and pull the lever.
Right.
And something that's not in this presentation, but is being considered is the new Grantino building.
The revenue building.
For early childhood. Prior to purchasing that building, our preschool was always in 2 or 3 different buildings. So we were trying to bring them together. Now, we can't fit our full preschool in the Grantino building either. So right now, we have our preschool at Daniel Webster and preschool at the new building, Grantino building. One of our plans, potentially, would be to reunite our preschool in one of our elementary buildings and open up the Grantino building as a nonprofit, for-profit daycare.
Such as the Magic Dragon.
So Dustbury has Magic Dragon, which is a daycare, and it's self-funded, and it could potentially bring in revenue for us. And that plan would not be able to be accomplished if we closed an elementary school. So, you know, back of the envelope on the closing of the elementary, it wasn't as much as, when we started really looking at it, it wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. I came up with a conservative estimate about $700,000 annually. You know, that's the staffing, that's the utilities, that's all those all the other costs. Back of the envelope on a daycare, you could generate $300,000 to $500,000.
Oh, yeah,
So,
they pay
it's-
out the nose for daycare these days.
So, I mean, the big question is just getting it up and running, and who does that, and we're all stretched to our limits right now, so that's one of the issues.
Sean, on that question, what type of, what would Massachusetts require, I guess, require us to do for that daycare? Would be any kind of?
It's pretty close, I mean, that's one of the issues.
I mean, that seems to, kind of one of the issue with the town struggling with is that we're required to do all this paperwork for them, and they start out giving us the money and then take it away.
Yeah,
And that's
our current early childhood, our preschool serves, we have that because 50% of that population attends at no cost because of services, the special education, IEP services. And then there's another 50% that are peers that do pay to attend. And it's only a 2.5-hour day, so it's obviously not a daycare. You know, I've always, you know, what Magic Dragon does, what other districts across the state that run daycares, you know, it provides daycare for our employees. We have 700 employees, many that are paying, you know, need daycare to work for us. So it would not only be for our staff, it would be for any residents in town, and it could be structured at a less expensive rate than the for-profit daycares, but still generate revenue for us. So it's something that's really exciting. It's, you know, it's that business model type thing. It's just getting off the ground, and to exactly what you said is there are regulations that are specific to daycares versus preschools.
So this could be, this is a next year plan. not
Yeah, so
next
this
year, the year after.
this would be
But
It's a
plan
fiscal
it out.
year 28.
Yeah,
28,
and
so-
we'll be making decisions based on, really, those two pieces kind of go hand in
But the issue, and that's why, that's another reason why this is being pushed off as well, because if we close one of our elementary schools, it could be any other, we have 2 larger schools and 3 smaller schools. It could be any of those 3 smaller schools. But if we did close that, we would not be able to bring our preschool together in one of our 5 buildings. So
Yeah, and
that's the trade-off.
this is not in our numbers right now, we took that off of our numbers. So we did keep it in the presentation, just so you know. Move on. All right, this is taking away, so as Tom mentioned, when he went through the numbers, we have a very small 7th grade right now that will turn into a very small 8th grade next year. Because of that, we could remove the cluster model from 8th grade next year for 1 year and make it a grade level, which actually takes the middle school model away and makes it a junior high. People sort of use junior high and middle school interchangeably. Actually not. The middle school is much more structured around us. That's the social construction that we created in Marshfield, where junior high is more departmental. It's a junior high school, like the high schools are. That's what we can do. We can do this for 1 year, and then we'd have to really look at it the year after. This is a dropping a 0.5 school nurse that, again, we're in tier 3 now. The state guidelines say that you need a certain amount of nurses per amount of students. I think it's 1 nurse per 250 students. As it works out, we have 7. We have 7 students? Right, that's right. We have, if we cut, we have 2 nurses at the middle school. If we 500 nurses? All right, I should have said that apparently.
500.
500, 1 nurse per 500 students. If you cut, we have 2 nurses in the middle school, and if you cut 0.5, we still will be under those numbers. The problem is, as you know, this takes away our ability to attend to some of the significant needs our students have, like a diabetic student or a student that needs intense supports, and it makes us a less safe place, which is never a good thing. So we do have this as a low tier, but we could potentially do this, and we'll have, if we have to, we have to. We do, it does comport with the requirements. Another social worker, adjustment counselor, this is one that is shared between the middle and the high school. We've got a custodian. This is going to increase all of our workload for all of our custodians. Our assistant athletic director, that actually, we took that off, right? Actually,
Oh, yeah, you usually don't.
yeah, that one actually is off, but, so we have to, it's going to be a little less than the numbers, right? Athletic fee increase is something we're going to have, we look at as well. Say it again.
The numbers are correct. This
Numbers
is
are
just a
correct.
slide.
Yeah,
That
the
was.
slide's not. The athletic fee increase is, this is something we have to work through with our school committee and our athletic subcommittee, but that's a possibility.
Is I realize you haven't done it yet, but I thought there was like a family, once a family reached a certain level.
There is.
Yeah, so right now our fee is structured, I mean, this changed probably, it was 2018 was the last time we changed our fee. And it went from being, I think it was like $75 per sport. We bumped it up to $300 for 1, 2, or 3 sports. So increasing participation. You pay for 1 sport, second and third one are free, so you kind of increase participation. And that we've had that model for 8 years. We've been looking, it's been public meetings where we've been looking at potentially changing that to bring in more revenue. Our athletic department right now is running at about a $100,000 deficit. It's not a good situation. So we've been looking at every way to either decrease expenses or increase revenue. There's been a couple different fee proposals. We were hopeful that we can establish something that's going to increase our revenue, but not dramatically impact families, and still work on a little bit of that same structure.
So next week will be, I believe it's next week, it's soon, we're meeting as an athletic subcommittee, which is 2 members of the school committee, Mr. Nolan, myself, and our athletic team director, and building principal.
But I also, Ken from our school committees here, don't want to speak for the school committee, but I think we all sort of agree that it's difficult to ask people for an override and then throw fee increases on top of that as
And
well.
that's why this is in a tier 3 scenario.
So this is a tier 3.
Right, but like I was gonna say, we have to discuss that and the sub-varsity situation with our subcommittee and school committee before any of that is decided. But it is on there. So here's our final tier 3 cuts.
So if I could speak for what I heard Peter Defto say a number of times, is that there are kids in the school, in every school, that are only there because of athletics, and to lock them
And
out
arts.
in any way, yeah.
And
Music, yeah, sure.
And tech ed, you know.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with these
we
things.
sure do, all those special things.
If we go with raising the fees, which I think, if they haven't been raised since 2018, they probably deserve to be looked at.
Yeah, we're dramatically less than our neighboring towns.
I really recommend.
They're charging $300
for a bypass for those who can't afford that.
You hear that, and I think our school committee is very tuned into that,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we'll have that. But again, we gotta be careful because money that we take off this, you're gonna find it someplace else, potentially. When we think we have enough of we feel confident we, unfortunately.
I won't quote Peter Deftos again, but I have a few others.
Well, listen, all right, so that's our total for tier 3. And some of the other cost-saving measures that we're looking at that are practical is reduction in our elementary Chromebook protection plan, our curriculum consumables, the technology applications our teachers use, making sure there's no overlap at all. We look at this anyway. Utilities conservation, copier costs. We're looking to cut in every way possible to try to keep as many people employed and as many programs going as we can. So that's it.
Yeah, this prior school year for fiscal '25, I don't want to go into too much detail, but we have something called circuit breaker, that's Fed funding that can be rolled over from one year to the next for those high cost special education students. Historically, I mean, there were several years where we rolled over the full amount. You know, it used to be $1 million plus. It's all the way up. It's over $2 million now. But over these last few years, we've been continually carrying over less. We closed out last year carrying over $34,000. So we were that close to having a major issue. And while these things here, as other cost-saving measures, aren't really included in our total, everything we can do to save costs helps that bottom line.
Yeah,
A budget's a budget, but annually there are swings in certain things. I mean, we've seen the cost just to maintain our buildings and keep like that's skyrocketed. And we all know utilities have skyrocketed. And those are things that you try to budget for and you might not anticipate, and you have to have some sort of buffer zone there. We have no buffer at this time.
So that is in a nutshell where we are and what we've set ourselves to be able to do if worse comes to worse, or if we get some funding from an override. Once again, thank you for listening to us and thank you for
Thanks for the presentation. Do we have any other questions? I mean, we will kind of sprinkle them in, but
I have a handful. if you-
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Don't mind. And I should say, if we can't get an answer, we won't try to answer, maybe we'll get.
And I'll also share the numbers with you as well. There wasn't in our presentation, but we have a spreadsheet that'll.
Is this in that Marshfield Matters? I
This presentation?
Yeah.
Not yet. It will
Well,
be
this is
next
gonna
week.
be, but this is what you're planning to present at town meeting?
We haven't determined that. And this is-
Okay.
I have a
Maybe-
presentation.
It may be too long, I don't know if you'd be able to do it.
I don't think I can. I have to.
I don't know if they let you go an hour.
It's 2 minutes.
I don't know if time already will get to go an hour and a half, I don't know.
I usually get through a reading and then I'm pumped.
Yeah, I know, they're like,
I'm good at that.
no, but similar, I mean, I just want to, I like Vin, I just want to say this is an excellent model for presentation.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
I'd like to, if whoever's watching it, they should copy you.
Well, they'd be,
I certainly am.
they'd be copying me, the Galvin and help
Well,
develop it.
I like the methodology. so.
Thank you. But I am giving a presentation on the 10th for.
Oh, right.
On this, at Seth Ventris at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
about just to anybody who wants to, it'd be very similar to this.
Public meeting.
Yeah, just a meeting to anybody who has questions, and we'll try to, have open dialogue with them about where we are with schools, and maybe somebody will have a great idea. So, but anyway,
Maybe I'm just not grasping the numbers, but I think it was on slide 1, you showed, you don't have to put it up, you know the numbers better than I do. You showed the amount proposed or approved by the school committee going into FY27, right?
yes,
And then the town came back to you with a differing amount.
yes.
Okay, so that delta is,
The delta is what we built in for our potential negotiating responsibilities. with
oh, no, I'm sorry, what is that actual number?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Oh,
Sorry.
It's actually,
Referring to you, but.
yeah,
Yeah,
Numbers guy.
it's 1,237,964. And that number, we have our full line item budget it's available on our website, right on our homepage. If you click on that and you scroll all the way down, I put that in, it's in one of our sick leave buyback accounts. It's just, but it says right there, potential contractual obligations.
So that would be for the GWI and benefits?
What's that, sorry?
That would be for general wage increase in the.
Correct, yeah. So we have in our level, in that 63.5 level service budget, we have all our contractual obligations that are already settled. So, we have custodian settled, we have clerical settled, we have cab workers, van drivers, so those are all settled. The three contracts that aren't settled, but we're carrying a number there. You can do that, if there was only one contract, we couldn't carry a number, because then you're, that's semi, I don't know if it's illegal, but it's not,
Doesn't seem that.
that's bargaining in bad faith. But if it's 3 contracts, there's a number there.
Yeah,
So the number's public.
And so that, if a magic wand was waved and you got that 1.3, you're effectively saying services and everything is status quo for this year. Back into,
Sorry,
is that missing? If you got your original approved school committee number,
Correct, so-
that you would not have to.
Well, if there was no deficit in town, yeah.
Yeah, I'm suspending for a moment the rest of town and just addressing the school.
So the committee, the 63.597 million that the committee approved in January, that was our level service. That's opening, running school exactly the same way we're running it this year, with a projected contractual obligation for those 3
Steps
units.
and lanes.
And that was the one, that's
A little
the,
bit, just for your knowledge, a little bit of what we've been trying to do over the last couple of weeks is effectively looking at every department, school department included, and say, okay, A to B, or A to wherever, what's the most desired implementation for each department to get them to a place where we don't feel like services are being impacted or not, negatively impacting the town. We're assigning dollar amounts to that, right? So that's what I'm trying to do here, irrespective of the override. We're in strange times and we're a little bit outside of our bounds, but we're effectively trying to, in total, piece by piece by piece, figure out a new override amount. I know that's a little bit backwards, it's a little bit out of our scope and our professional.
Or just to
ability.
validate the $4 million override number.
Yeah.
That was kind of just the swag.
So it strikes me that your delta, irrespective of the total deficit, if it was just for you, is 1.3 million. Am I saying that incorrectly? Am I understanding that incorrectly?
That's the delta between what we had put in for our, I don't know exactly, what we had put in
It's
for
crazy, I know, it's just-
what we had put in for our level services and what the town approved,
Understood.
and then asked us to cut from.
Gosh.
And that number, is the expected combined settlement amount on your.
It was an estimate, it's an estimate, because we knew there were rocky financial times, and and I understand there's opinions out there about you should cut things and all that, but we didn't want to, we usually present a financial plan, which is expected, that we talk about, based on data, what do we need for positions to improve our organization.
Understood.
And so we try.
Positions or programs or anything.
We try to get that
Understood,
passed.
we're not really in that position
We
right
took that
now.
off.
Totally
We took that
understood and appreciated your
Yes, yeah, no, sorry.
malleability there.
So I guess my answer is yes.
And I guess the question I'm trying to drill down on at my own detriment perhaps is,
No.
what is the amount of money that needs to come from the town back to your budget? Because effectively, no matter what, let's say we said, oh, 7 million, which now we're operating with 5.6 as the deficit, right? Town meeting floor has the ability to vote that down significantly. So if we can present the townsfolk with a real articulable number across the board, and they do vote it down, they can kind of, to an extent, sway what they're validating or placing as most important from a funding perspective. Doesn't mean it's gonna work that way, now we're getting way outside the scope, but I'm just trying to drill down on those.
We want to be financially responsible, but to create a scenario where we provide the services that we've been providing is 1.3 million. Correct.
Well, not necessarily, are we talking an override number?
No.
To an extent.
So,
What
yeah, there's
amount
two-
of money given back to you?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, through an override.
So if I could,
Yeah,
if
you
I
may
could
be able to
take
explain
that
that
for a
first.
second, if you look
From
at
the
the,
$7 million cut.
so,
This will be-
I think I can answer, I think that,
Yeah, Vin's gonna clarify.
yeah, so
Much better than I
if
can
you
do.
look at your screen, I'm sharing my screen, we see that your request was where my cursor is right now. It was 62, 359, 239 is what the town accountant may have put together.
that's our,
Level service.
that's our level service with
Minus-
no increases for those three.
Right, got
three
that,
contracts.
got that. What the town said they had to allow you to spend is 57,835.
And I just calculated that differential, that's 5,762,275 off of the 6359, but then the differential there is 4.524.
Yeah, so I guess to maybe not rephrase what Peter's asking, but
Please do.
yeah,
I understand.
that's a little
I understand.
too much. If you can think about, I hate to use this example, but it's instructional. When the George Bailey's building and loan was going broke, and he had only this much cash in his hand, and he asked each customer what they wanted, what they needed, he was asking them, give me the most important money you need right
It
now.
was Uncle Billy was the problem.
Yeah, well, but anyway, you know what I'm saying is, I don't think we can magically or otherwise find $5 million for the schools. When you look at the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, if you could, and you don't have to do it now on the spot, because this is a lot to ask, but if you could say, we really feel bad about cutting these things, and to put these things back would cost this much, I think that would help us, and I'm not sure to what end, but it at least gives me a chance, or gives this committee a chance to frame, are we close to 4 million, or are we,
Well, so, yeah, I mean, that 4 million override is basically going to result in those tier 1 reductions.
yeah.
Because that
So
number's
that's like the
very
answer
close
is
to
that-
where almost 1.8 million in reductions plus any negotiation responsibility.
And if I can say, Mr. Chair can tell you, but when we talked about this, the $4 million, I didn't mean that way, $4 million, if you remember the joint meeting with the select board at the time, that Mr. Sumner basically asked the select board to pick a number, and it was like this,
Yeah.
right? So the reason he did that is so that they could work with something in the middle, and that was the number they landed on. But they could have said 3 million, they could have said 5 million, whatever, right? So I like what we're doing is where, that just gave them a place to base it on, to come up with some numbers, right? So we're just trying to come up with some numbers based on conversations with department heads.
Right, the experts, the
experts in the
department
departments.
heads of the superintendents, and they're the experts. We're not looking for.
You guys are the experts, we are not.
I mean, we feel the number should be proportional to the number of cuts that the town is making based on the amount of budget we have. So we want it to be proportional and even. I think that's appropriate. And we're looking
Yeah, I
to.
mean, we're kind of in this situation that, that I've I typically share every year, and it's in our school committee presentations. Historically, the town budget versus school budget, there's a complete misnarrative that goes around that
We're all
school.
in town. I mean,
Yeah, we're the whole town, but over the last 15 years, the town budget has increased dramatically more than the school budget. And, you know, but over the last 3 years, we've been very fortunate that we've actually gotten over 3%. But when I create a budget, typically, it's based upon a 3%. We gotta hold to somewhere in that 3% range because we have Prop 2.5, and we might have some new growth revenue. The town, as a whole, across the board, should be 3%. If you look historically, the town has increased much greater than that. The school budget has increased 2.9% on average, over the last 15, 17 years.
3.18%.
Okay, what, you probably had it in front of you, I didn't pull it in front of me, but, because I gave you guys all that information. But what's happened, and even with the last couple of years, getting over 3 and then 4%, those last couple of years, the dramatic increase in everything. The inflation off the charts. We get hit with transportation costs, we get hit, you know, our special ed, we spend a lot of money on out-of-district placements and special education for heavy needs students. Those schools have been able to increase their budgets by 12, 13%. Yet we're limited to 2.5. Like the numbers don't add up. And we've gotten to that point where the numbers just don't add up anymore.
The amount of cuts in tier, the tier 1 scenario is still devastating to the schools.
Yeah, no, I understand that, there's no.
So I just want to be sure we're clear on that. So we recognize this tough financial times, but when I say proportional, I mean that with all respect to everybody trying to do their work here. We're answering questions as to why is we're getting some of this, and we get from the other angle, but why is the school's portion so disproportionate to this? And we're trying to figure that out in our own way to make sure that they are even and appropriate based on the scenario. So, you know, it's hard for us to give you a number of what the cut would be. We just want to be appropriate with the financial crisis we're in. But we want to be able to maintain and keep running our programs. That's why we tried to tier the cuts for you, so you can see that, you know, the tier 1 are really bad ideas, but clearly we feel we can deal with some of those before we can deal with some of the ones that are in tier 2 and tier 3.
The one thing,
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I'm wondering whether within the tier 1, not to make too much work, but whether there's some that are worse than others. And maybe that's.
it's tough to say that, but, you know.
And not off the top of your head.
What we've done over.
That's what we work on with our subcommittee and our school committee. That's some work ahead of us, but we know full well that if we don't get any override, and this is just a fact, it's not a statement necessarily, but it's a fact. If we don't get some money from an override, everything that we just mentioned is being cut.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, is come up with another idea for an override, as we've already heard, that is really based on facts, and facts like, this is really devastating, but it's not as devastating as tier 3. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
Just some variation in your tier.
I didn't even know we could do that. I thought we had.
Well, that's what we're trying to come up with.
I think this is unprecedented times. I mean,
Because
I've never heard of this, and you know, we're what,
Uncharted.
400-year-old town, so.
We're chartered to provide advice to the town people, and I don't know
I get it.
if someone, and it certainly won't be me, and I'm not advocating that anyone does, but if someone were to step up and say, I'd like to amend the $4 million question to something else, we would be able to then say, you know, that's not too far off of what we're getting, or no, that's way off of what we're getting, that's inappropriate. Whereas otherwise we'd have to shrug and say the advisory board has no advice for you on that amendment.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get some information today, and what Pat alluded to earlier, with with Peter and with Meg over that 7 million, 5.6 million. From what I'm looking at, the difference between 4 million and 5.6, it appears to be all schools at this point.
Oh, is that right?
I think it looks like the town has adjusted their initial department request. So if you look at the warrant, it says department request.
Some departments have cut 20% of their budget, some of 13.9%. So,
But it says department request. So I'm not, they have a good layout that I was just looking at before I came over here, so, of all that. So, I'm not questioning that scenario, but, so, if that is close to level service at the town, and I'm just going through it, and I do see some positions that are being eliminated with a $4 million override on the town side, so, the question is that component of bringing that $7 million deficit of the town down to 5.6, it didn't include us. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that we weren't asked to be included. So this just became news to us, so
And, I mean, we're
that's where we're at.
collaboratively, but
Yeah, we're working
that
collaboratively.
number did, and I say this with great respect to what
Peter's doing.
Peter and Meg are doing, but it is, to me, it makes sense that if the $70 million deficit was being reduced because of budgets looking at level service down to 5.6 million, that then we would now cut off of that. I don't understand why we would be cutting our percentage off of the 7 as opposed to the 5.6. That would make sense to me, is that, like, look, we looked at the other town budgets, there was some things that were beyond a level service, we trimmed those down, yours is level service, so now we're gonna come together, and it turns out that the deficit is 5.6 million. Schools, you have this portion off of that, and then we start working off of a 5.6 million. It's confusing to me.
Well, I think, I agree with you, I think that's a very worthwhile
Discussion you should
board
have.
discussion you should have and then put out there publicly, because it's drastically going to change the questions that are being asked and the answers that are being given. I think you know that.
Yeah,
And then,
I can't reconcile the town's like pre-cut to where we are, because we weren't asked, we didn't know there was an opportunity there, first of all, and we also didn't understand, we don't understand what the cuts were necessarily. So all we know is that a $5.6 million thing was floated, and then it appears we're still cutting off of $7 million. So that's very confusing for us. We're trying to figure it out.
and I don't want to get too deep on this and how the 67% came about. I think those of you who've been on advisory board before, and I think everybody's heard it, at one point in time, we did have a town revenue sharing agreement and a fixed cost agreement that spelled all this out in black and white, and in good or bad, we shared in equal percentages over the pain. And what it was there were certain identified fixed costs of the town that were, quote unquote, working back with Nancy Holt, way back in the day, I worked with her, and we identified that the fixed costs were roughly 50% schools, 50% municipal. You know, it would swing 49 one year, 51 the other year. We said, those are not part of the equation. You agree upon your town revenue, you take your fixed costs of the town, you remove them, the fixed costs that are in the warrant, you remove those, and then the remaining revenue was basically 2/3, 1/3. And we had that agreement for several years. What was done on this apportionment of the town deficit, I mean, if you look at why we're here, it's a little bit of revenue, but it's mainly those fixed costs. So where those fixed costs historically are 50% education, 50% municipality, we're taking the 2/3 hit on that. And not to be glib, but when Charlie did his presentation back in January, he explicitly stated that it wasn't a school problem, it was all these other issues. So as this process continues to move forward, it becomes and we're going, 100+ pink slips, it's becoming really difficult to rationalize the hit that the schools are taking based upon these factors. And picking up 2/3 of that is tough.
Well, I can only tell you what I wrote in my notes and what I remember. It's not, obviously 100% reliable. But what Mr. Moore said to us last night is the way they got from 7 to 5.6 was they negotiated down the health insurance costs. This would be for town employees, I assumed it was.
So that's complete news, and that means the education deficit should come down.
These are things you
Well,
really need to talk face
Yeah,
to
we
face.
need to have that discussion. We really shouldn't be having this here. I'd rather
That's what I'm
talk
trying
to
to
you.
say. is that
So
if
what I would
we
say,
were-
just if I can just jump in, that I believe that's why Select Board Chair Smith has really tried, right off the bat,
To get,
to bring everyone together. Because I think communication is so huge, especially now, if ever there was a time everyone should be communicating for one goal, which is to come up with the right answers for the people of this town. I think it's now. And everyone needs to DPW, schools, the town, everyone needs to come together and go, look, let's open the kimono here, let's try to get this done, because the people deserve that, and I think that's what he's trying to do. So-
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
so tonight, they're in the select board meeting, I believe, Mr. Warren is presenting a presentation that Chairman Smith would like to do at town meeting that will show, how we got to now and where everything is going to result in, loss of services to the town, if no override at 4 million, so I understand he's working on that, but they are working on that. I don't know if it'll come out of the select board, but that's what's being talked about right now.
That's great, and I do agree with you, Chris, that you need to collaborate.
I mean, that's what I think he's trying to do. I mean, he just got in the seat, so he's trying to bring some, unity together, bring everybody together to try to make it work.
Just to go back, we just hadn't heard of this 5.6 number until
Yeah.
very
There's
recently.
a lot of numbers flying around. We didn't even hear it till like a week ago.
Well,
I think maybe
that's
two.
problematic.
Where it's
Yeah.
him,
Right,
but
right, right.
I mean, but Meg's work,
Oh, I know.
it's a weird time. I mean, we don't need to belabor it.
Nope,
It's a weird.
nope, I know.
But we are.
And-
So
Oh, we are.
Let's stop belaboring.
Yeah.
All right, where are we? Anyone else, questions for either Tom or Dr. Sullivan? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, thank you for the school department, and you guys put a lot of effort into this, trying to make cuts where you can, and it's a very difficult thing. You guys, we talked earlier in the year, and, not great conversation, because there's a lot of cuts to do, and you guys informed me of a lot of things that, we can and can't do, so appreciate that, but, in general, you guys have done a great job overall, but there's still some things that, I look at the budget and I see other things. I'm not going to micromanage and go through each one, but in general, big picture wise, the past 10 years, to your point of going from 50% to now 60%, I think the school department was asking for 3.39% over 5 years, and it's actually 3.16 increase every year for 10 years. So if you add that up and the town's only getting 2.5%, that's 8 to 10% increase over 10 years, delta.
Yeah, so just to make sure, like, the numbers we have is from FY '09 to FY '26, the average annual education increase is 2.87%. And over the same time period, the average annual municipal increase is 4.88%.
And that's a published,
So we have some different numbers.
That's
there.
great.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
And that doesn't include all free cash.
Yeah,
Yeah, my data came from your information, so,
So
I'm not sure where that
accounted-
came from.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know who would know the answer, what accounted for the numbers above 2.5%? Was that town growth?
Yeah, I mean, it's a component of town growth. I think, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna manage the municipal side whatsoever, but I think that, it's pretty clear the envelope was pushed on increasing. And you know, we reached a 4.4% increase last year because we had to make it work.
The municipal was 4.2.
So last year, and that was only because we received money right near the end that allowed us to balance our budget, because we were in a real problem, and we closed out at $34,000. So, I mean,
So both the town is spending more money too, then, so.
yeah.
Good point, yeah.
So, I mean, that's,
Sorry.
No, I appreciate the direct information, so.
Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I know you floated the idea of increasing the bus fee this year. Is that still on the table or not?
no, we already opened up registration,
Okay.
so that wasn't in the presentation because we pulled that back.
That was a timing issue.
It's a timing issue, because we certainly, again, we're not looking to increase fees if the town as a whole is looking for an override. That was pretty set. We had to open up bus registration because we need to get it closed out. We need to get it closed out to plan for next year. And we opened it up on May 1st, and it closes on June 15th, so there just wasn't any time period, so.
My second question on that, just if you give me some color on that, is that only applies to the middle school and high school, the fee, right?
Sorry?
The high school, it only applies to the high school and the middle school for the fee.
No, it's, so the legal definition, the state, is every student, they still use, it was originally enacted 40, 50 years ago, and that was when most elementary schools were K to 6. So you can charge any student grades 7 to 12 to ride the bus, and then K to 6 outside of, K to 6 within 2 miles or within, it's within 2 miles, we do 2 miles or within. Any students K to 6 outside of 2 miles, we have to provide bus service. That's the legal requirement.
Yeah, and we try to deal with safety concerns and
Yes.
such, but that isn't required.
I'm just driving my kids every once in a while. I just noticed that, if you raise the fee, it seems like everyone's going to drive their kid, because it's a chaos.
It's always a
situation.
it's always a tough situation.
Yeah. And then, that's, we were well aware that was good. I mean, it actually, turned out a little less chaotic than we originally thought.
Water finds a way down to the,
starting the middle school and the high school, 5 minutes apart creates a lot of traffic activity over there. And, it's pros and cons.
So that is a concern.
And I had a couple other questions too, mostly about transportation. I was kind of looking at that. So the van drivers are pretty much exclusively for sped, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then you have the sped transportation for this year going up. How many kids are they, what's the number of kids that they're dropping off?
On vans,
Yes.
so, I don't know if we have that right there. So,
And my other
there's
question is,
a whole bunch of different scenarios. So we have between 50 and 60 students that go out of district. Now, some of those, a few of those are transported on our own vans. We can do surrounding communities.
that's what my question was going to
But,
ask.
we have students that go to, where's Landmark?
Really.
Danvers.
Yes.
Like, we have students that go to Danvers and back on a daily basis. So that's a third-party vendor, because that's somebody who goes up. And this is a really big topic at the state level, that trying to get a little bit more coordination. I have a South Shore group that's working on it, and we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that internally. So we do have one van that goes to Plymouth, but picks up a Duxbury student and another Duxbury, and Duxbury pays us.
We do try to create a programming so that we don't have to transport students anywhere.
Well, that's-
We want our students to stay here.
And that's a big part of,
Staffing crews.
when you look at, the enrollment decline, but then and this is a question we get all the time, and I know I answered it when we met with you guys. The enrollment decline, but then our staffing is pretty level. Our staffing has gone down with those students, but then there's all these other, we could send a student out at a cost of $300,000 a year. We could take 4 of those students, have have them attend school in Marshfield and have it cost us $400,000 rather than $900,000. So, but that increases our staffing by 3.
Our students with
So, like-
disabilities from 2016 to 2025 have gone from pretty much steadily up from 677 students with disabilities in 2016 to 757 in 2025. And our out-of-district students have gone down from 65 in 2018 to 37 in 2025. So the programming that we're establishing for more students is actually saving money with the lack of out-of-district placements, because out-of-district placements can cost, $100,000.
And those students that we keep in district, we transport on our own vans rather than having to send them to another out-of-district school that costs a lot. I would say, just a rough number off the top of my head, I would venture, we probably have 50 to 60 students on a daily basis that we're transporting on our yellow vans that you see around town. We transport a number of preschool students on our yellow vans. And then any student that has to ride a van, there's certain students with disabilities that ride a van. And then we have to provide, if a student goes to another, we have a specialized program at one elementary school, but the student lives in, we have a specialized program at Governor Winslow, but the student lives in Daniel Webster. We still have to provide transportation. They can't get on the bus. We have to provide we have to provide a van to drive. I would say we have about 50 to 60 students that we transport.
And my other question is, McKinney-Vento,
Yeah.
how many students that we transporting from that, and where are they coming from? And
It swings wildly.
So remember, if we have students who are Marshfield students who become homeless, we have to transport them essentially from any place they
move to.
Yeah. So, and that's
Are they Ubering?
Yeah,
Or-
and
Are they Ubering or are they taking?
it's essentially an Uber. It's a taxi. I mean, it's one of our vendors. I don't know if they're vendor anymore, but Bill's Taxi would transport, so if a student was living in Marshfield, attending Marshfield schools, and has to, and the definition of homeless is very broad. So if a family is in Marshfield and they have to relocate to Rockland and with another family member, so they basically move into a house in Rockland, but they were living in Marshfield, we're obligated by the McKinney-Vento Act to transport that student from Rockland to Marshfield.
And that's true.
We've had Boston, we've had Brockton, we've had Fall River. I mean, and it's essentially a taxi ride.
Now, I know that's a federal program.
It's a lot.
That's a federal program that's.
It's a federal program.
Not even close.
The only good thing is the reimbursement rate it used to be pennies on the dollar. It has steadily increased, as has this special education transportation reimbursement. So that, I will say this, it's got a little, that.
So could the state actually fund some of that as well? I know it's just a federal program that gives us the money.
Correct, yeah.
Is it?
Actually, don't go back. I know special education transportation, the state does.
Yes, but do they do that as well?
I
know they don't. I don't.
I have to look up the current funding on McKinney-Vento. It's changed a little bit over the past few years. So.
All right, let's, it has some follow-ups, I guess.
Yeah, just in general, just kind of looking at the big picture, it seemed like the budget was top-heavy a little bit with, there's a lot of, for instance, like superintendent, assistant super clerical, business and finance, there's a lot of I'm not trying to micromanage, but.
I would say if.
And I don't know what you guys do,
I worked in nonprofits for 14 years, 15 years before getting an education. There'd be 5 of me. There'd be 5 people doing that. I'm sorry. Just read so the other day, it's a lot of
To address that from an educational perspective.
maybe needed,
Well, no, I would say we're fairly thin in terms of that. We over the last couple of years, we've We've eliminated a assistant director of special education. Right now, we have one person dealing with and helping and supporting all of our student support needs, which includes special education. We have no one that is an assistant that can help manage that from a leadership perspective. We also, as I mentioned, our director of online and professional work, professional development, we're not filling that position. We're losing that position. That's a district-wide position. We don't, like other districts that are our size, for instance, Hingham, we don't have district-wide coordinators in our subjects. Hingham is filled with them, so if you look at Hingham, they have a central office position, district-wide coordinator of English, 6 K through 12, district-wide coordinator of history, K through 12. And it creates continuity in curriculum. We have one assistant superintendent that does that tries to create continuity of curriculum and works with stipended department heads and coordinators. We built in the coaches model to try to help with that, but our coaches are going. Our business and finance, we have, Tom is essentially running transportation. He's also running all of our budgets. We have some positions, but they're going. Our assistant facilities director is leaving. So I would say, I hear what you're saying, but I would not agree with that if you compare us to like districts, that we're having it all in the central office areas.
If I look at the curriculum directors, school leadership, line item 2210, of all the buildings is called $3 million worth of school leadership, 3.17 million, 7 buildings, that's $453,000 per building, is 10% of all the teachers, so, that may be needed, but in the sped.
So when you talk about Hingham, is it easy for you to benchmark against Marshfield to other schools?
Yeah, we usually don't benchmark against Hingham.
But to other similar.
I just give it a similar size, just similar size district, but.
It's,
I would gladly, sit and show you this. I do understand that our enrollments have dropped at the elementaries, and we do still have elementary assistant principals. I do understand that, but they're in there, and they provide a service that is in a different educational landscape than it used to be. They're doing so much more now because they're required by the state in terms of our curriculum needs, our evaluation needs, our reporting needs, the intensity around communication around it's so much higher.
I'm not saying you don't need it. I'm just saying, as a third party looking at it,
Yeah.
I see highs and lows in the budget, and I'm looking at the highs, and I'm saying, hey, because that makes sense. When I'm calling it out, and you're at
22 and 10 includes principals, assistant, what's that?
No, I'm saying thank you.
Yeah,
Principals, assistant principals, and their clerks.
I want to kind of terminate this. Would I, take a recommendation or not take it? There probably a town meeting, you might get questions along this line.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I might want to have a slide. If I were in your position, I might want to have a slide that says, hey, either we're right in line or we are below the areas around here. So, yeah, and that just, at least that shuts off a question. Or if you look at it and say, we're a little high, and I doubt you'll be there, but it might be a good self-assessment to do, if it's easy enough to do. I think these are fair questions.
I've always looked at it this way, we're a big, small town.
Right, that's right.
So you look at communities and, we're obviously down in students, it's still a $60 million budget plus all the other activity pushes it to over 70 million. And we operate, that was in Cohasset, much smaller. The activity here is 5 times the amount of Cohasset probably. Our structure is the same going all the way down from Marshfield to Cohasset. The structure is pretty much the same. Some of those towns have more. Then After Marshfield, you jump to a Plymouth that has a central office staff, like and then you go to Boston, we're not Boston, but then you get in
That kind
what
of
people
comparison.
look at as administrative bloat, that happens. There's none of it here.
Yeah, no, I
It really
agree.
isn't.
I
truly
agree, I
say it.
agree with that, we can look at that, yeah, I appreciate it.
Just a couple more quick ones. Curriculum director, the sped team chairs, there's $930,000. I think you did have some cuts in those. Was it, I don't know how much the cuts were, but is it one or two people? But there's 10 people spread across all the schools, the 7 schools. Where did that number come out of it? Was it?
What, are you looking at one of our?
Yeah, I think it was in,
I know our team chairs, we have
Tier 2, I think.
we have 3.2 FTE team chairs right now over our 5 elementary buildings, and in the proposal here, there was a reduction down to 1, so it's a 2.2 reduction down to 1. The other curriculum directors, I'm trying to think, is
Are
that,
you talking about?
the sped team chair?
So we have 3.2, we have 5 elementary schools, and we have 3.2 sped team chairs
FTE, there's 1 at each school, but some are part-time.
that handle the elementary, and then we have a department head at the middle school, and a department head at the high school. But keep in mind, those special education matters if we don't do those right, it's gonna cost us major money in legal fees. So we really have to get that right, not only for the students and families, but for town of Marshfield, or we're gonna be in a real mental bind.
I see, I see the director, there's a clerical secretary for the director, and there's one of
When you
the
say director,
salaries for a director spent.
so we don't have a director of staff, we have an assistant superintendent of student services, who again
So,
does
to,
does all students.
that's right, it's still,
I'm
it's
just
still
going by the budget.
So if you don't remember, one of the things I was making point is we just cut, they had an assistant director, okay, of special education that we cut a couple of years ago. So that's,
no, in that line item, that, you're correct,
There's
that's,
also a sped administrator for $115,000. There's a
that's the special.
director of sped high school, sped administrator, another $123,000. No, it just seemed like a lot of money, that's why I'm not, you probably need it, but just looking at big picture wise, there's a lot of money spent there.
we turned over everything that's possible to get for
A lot of them are on
5, 6
the
million,
ground.
and a lot of that is there.
Sped para instructional assistants, $4,097,790.
Those are dictated by our
Those
education
are those
program.
ESPs that.
So that those are dictated by law.
Okay, and that's state mandates?
Well, they're mandates based on our educational programs. Educational programs are binding contracts, so we have to be able to fulfill that. those
The
needs.
IEPs.
Yeah, so they're called IEPs, which are individual education programs.
Okay, I'm gonna
That's fine.
get past this part of the meeting. We have a few other things to do, and I think everyone's batteries are running out.
How about the die?
Yeah, so I'm just going to say thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming and being forthright, and again, the presentation is very informative.
And I did send an FAQ document that has some information in it.
And I'll send the updated spreadsheet with the actual numbers that tie the
All
presentation.
right, that'd be good.
Okay, thank
Very-
you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
folks.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Yeah, right on. Right. So when I run out of juice, we lose my screen share. So what I'd like to do, we were to continue with going down any line items, but we just did that yesterday, so we can just carry that item over until our Tuesday meeting. I put together an agenda, and that'll be posted tomorrow. We'll be meeting in the select board boardroom at 6 o'clock. And at that point, that gives us all tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday to meet with departments, call and get there.
Days next week.
Tuesday and Thursday, I haven't put the Thursday agenda together yet. So is that all right with the committee that we defer that? And the last piece of this meeting is public comment, and I think we have some. So just identify yourself.
My name is Steve Atwater. I live on Lorraine Street. My folks moved to Marshfield a long time ago. I started in the 3rd grade in public schools there, in the Alamo with all the asbestos. And then went to the high school, which was a misnomer because they had the junior high there. Graduating class was 37. Only 34 showed up because 3 had gone right straight from the last class into the Army. What I've got to say won't take long. And it has to do with my business background. I worked for Bank of Boston for 36 years in the commercial finance group, making loans to middle market companies, non-investment grade, and they have leverage problems and interest coverage problems, and you become a very detailed lender because you're getting constant reports, sometimes daily. And once you become a loan officer, you eventually are originating loans and you're going to find a problem. And I had that problem, and there was no Excel, no computers. I had a big spreadsheet. I knew sales were coming in every day, the level of receivables, level of inventory, and some of the senior guys say, "Hey, Steve, what are you doing?" I'm saying, "I'm keeping track of this guy." That sort of got me into workouts and loan review on the line. I didn't go to a loan review department. And you learn to see warning signs when you start to do that. There are warning signs here. I heard about the 7.6 bogey that had to be filled, and I started working on it, and I found out it was a $3 million surplus, so I kept drilling down, and I agree it's $7 million. But in the process of drilling down, when you looked at the actual for the year ending June 30th, 75, Article 3A had expenses of 118,000. That's in the warrant.
118 million.
If you add up the individual items, it's almost 113 million. That's, if you're dealing with problem companies, that sets off an alarm. It happened again in current year, hasn't finished. Expenses 118.7, coming in at 117.2. At the last meeting, you had new budgets. And they included regional schools, state assessments, county assessments, overlay, cherry sheets, offsets, and assessments. That was $3 million for the year ending June 25, 4.6, 4.7 for the current year, which is, wait, we'll see what the final results were, and call it $4 million for the next year. And that came right out of the blue. It was not in Article 3A, another warning sign. If you go over to the numbers I'm looking at, third page, that has state assessments, county assessments, which are $1,520,412. Then you go down the page, and you see assessments for $1,520,412. That's a double count. I have no explanation.
I'm sorry, where are you? What line item? The line items are in the column called number on the warrant. So, I don't know where that document comes from.
This was passed out at the last meeting. You had, what was that, Thursday?
So that's one of the 3 PDFs that we got from Meg, right?
Yeah, that was.
The A, B, or C.
Yeah, I don't, which one you looking at? Which, the non-override budget? Yeah, this is the no override budget. Okay.
Oh, I'm looking at this column.
Yeah, right. So this is fiscal year 2026, that's this year. And this is what we're,
I'm saying there's there is a double count. Because these equal $1,520,000 down below.
so we're not in any, Steve, we're not in any position to comment yes, no.
I'm not looking for feedback.
Okay. So what Steve's looking at for the rest of the committee members, it's not in the warrant, it's in, yeah, it's in
You've
the,
got a situation in town where the town administrator suddenly resigned with a confidentiality agreement. It's supposedly $100,000.
no, nothing about any of those details.
No, that's on the street. You've had turnover at the select board level, not a good sign. And you start to see all of this, and you're saying, we got a problem. Can't define it, and you're looking at all these numbers, and you start to ask, I start to ask myself, how accurate are they? And I don't envy the position that you're all in, because you're gonna have to make recommendations at the town meeting. Whether it's no override, it's a $4 million, or it's a $7 million bill. I just wanted to tell you, here's my experience. And I see, there's turnover, morale is probably not so good in the town hall. You're in a difficult position to make a recommendation. I have one idea for you. If you went, for example, a $4 million override, and I'm not promoting an override, you can then calculate the increase in the revenue, and that can translate that into the increase in the real estate taxes. So if you were selling the $4 million, if you had a schedule in that warrant, saying if this passed, here's starting at 5,000 real estate tax, and you go all the way up to a bigger number, and you could show, here is the dollar impact on your taxes on an annual basis and also on a quality basis. That may help you from a selling standpoint. And that's a mathematical, easy thing to do.
I think if you went to town meeting, if you plan on going to town meeting, you'll see that very slide. That they agree with you. They being our select board agrees fully with you.
Yeah, and the tough thing, people are cynical and they hear 7 million, it's got to be for it. And that's just a reaction. You're going to have to deal with that. And I'm not promoting myself for any town officer. I'm not promoting myself to be on any
We have
committee.
an open spot.
Spare seat, you're there.
Advisory board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And if they want my work papers, I'm happy to give them to them.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not signing in an office. So, by the way, does the town have a CPA
Yes.
Yes.
producing an annual report, balance sheet, income statement, cash flow?
There's actually an annual report that you can get a copy of at Town Hall. I think maybe you can be online by now.
Yeah.
But I know there's definitely an annual report booked by department, all verified by CPA.
Who do you see at the town hall to get that?
I would go to the,
Chelsea DeCoste, what's her last name? The select board administrative assistant.
Yeah.
Go to the window, and there's a library of all the town reports from the 1800s to present.
I think the most recent is
and
2024.
it is pretty
That's
fascinating.
one online as well.
It is pretty fascinating. Oh, you found one.
Steve, thank you very much for your comments. So I'm going to take over the meeting again. Any
Yes, thank you
comments
very
from
much.
those online?
I appreciate you.
Hearing none.
I assume.
I make a motion to close our meeting.
I'll make a second.
All right, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We're good. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.